One plant, banned across the United States, still feeding 2 billion people every single day. In 7 days, a single cutting of this green can triple in weight without a greenhouse, without fertilizers, without any of the equipment your local nursery wants to sell you. And here is what nobody on this side of the world will ever tell you. This plant has more iron per 100 gram than a cut of beef. It has been used to reverse anemia in rural Southeast Asian communities for generations. Scientists in peer-reviewed journals have studied its alkaloid compounds for potential Alzheimer's treatment. Researchers at San Pedro College documented anti-diabetic and anti-ulcer properties in its stems. But in the United States, if you grow it near open water without a federal permit, you are breaking the law. Why would a nutritious, fast-growing, iron-rich leafy green be made illegal? That question will become very important in about 3 minutes. But first, let me show you exactly what this plant is, where it came from, and what the science says about it. The plant is called Ipomoea aquatica. In the Philippines, they call it kangkong. In Malaysia and Indonesia, it is kangkong. In Vietnam, it is rau muong. In China, it has been cultivated for over 2,000 years as kong xin chai. The name means hollow heart vegetable, and it is named for its hollow stem that acts like a natural drinking straw, pulling moisture from soil or water as the plant grows. Stand in any traditional wet market in Bangkok on a Tuesday morning, and you will see enormous stacks of this green piled higher than the vendors themselves. Every part is used. The tender shoot tips are stir-fried with garlic and oyster sauce. The thick, hollow stems are blanched and served cold with sesame oil and toasted sesame seeds. In Burmese cooking, it goes into fermented tea leaf salad. In Lao cooking, it shows up in soups. In Cambodia, it is one of the first vegetables children learn to recognize before they learn to read. This is not a niche crop. It is a food staple woven into the daily diet of billions of people across Southeast Asia, East Asia, and parts of Africa and South America. It has fed more people over more centuries than any vegetable you will find on the average Western supermarket shelf, and almost no one in the United States has ever eaten it. Here is what happens when you actually look at the nutrition data. The USDA National Nutrient Database records water spinach at 1.98 meg of iron per 100 gram of raw leaf. Research published through the Cabby Digital Library found iron content in the dried leaf powder reaching 210 milligram per 100 gram. A study from the Journal of Physics assessing the nutritional content of Ipomoea aquatica found that protein in the dry leaf meal reaches 25.6%. For comparison, a standard cut of beef sirloin delivers between 2.5 and 2.7 milligrams of iron per 100 gram. Read that again slowly. At peak dried concentration, this plant delivers iron content measured not in single digits, but in hundreds of milligrams per 100 gram. Even in its raw, fresh leaf form, it competes directly with red meat. And unlike the heme iron in beef, the non-heme iron in kangkong becomes dramatically more available when paired with a simple squeeze of citrus. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition confirmed that vitamin C converts plant-based iron into its ferrous form, the version your intestine absorbs most efficiently. Nature already solved this problem. Kangkong naturally contains vitamin C. The plant packages the iron enhancer alongside the iron itself. Now here's where the story becomes something different entirely. In 2016, the USDA National Invasive Species Information Center formally listed water spinach as a federal noxious weed under the Plant Protection Act. That classification made it illegal to import water spinach into the United States or to transport it between states without a valid federal permit. At that time, states including Florida, Virginia, Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina, Vermont, Washington, Oregon, and New York had each independently restricted, prohibited, or flagged it as an invasive aquatic plant pest. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission is direct about it. Their official guidance is this: because of its aggressive growth rate, never plant water spinach in Florida ponds, lakes, rivers, or canals. Possession of water spinach is prohibited without a special permit. Let that land. A plant that doctors in Southeast Asia recommend for patients with anemia. A plant that researchers in Davao City published pharmaceutical studies on for Alzheimer's treatment. A plant that Ayurvedic practitioners have used for liver health and jaundice management for centuries. a plant that delivers more iron per serving than a burger. That plant is illegal to possess in the state of Florida. And here is the part they do not explain in the government literature. Water spinach was not always banned in the United States. It was introduced deliberately. Researchers and agricultural agencies brought it in during the 1950s as a potential crop. They recognized exactly what communities across Asia had known for 2,000 years. This thing grows fast, yields heavily, requires almost no input, and is extraordinarily nutritious. And then it escaped cultivation. It spread into waterways. It formed dense floating mats across canals and rivers. Those mats shaded out submerged native vegetation, slowed water flow, and created stagnant zones ideal for mosquito breeding. The ecology side of the story is real. The concerns are legitimate. Water spinach in an open Florida waterway is genuinely problematic for native species. But here is where the conventional response falls apart completely. The answer to an invasive plant problem in open waterways is not to make the plant illegal to grow in a container in your back garden. It is not to make it impossible for health-conscious households to access one of the most iron-rich, fast-growing food plants in the world. It is not to erase a vegetable from an entire nation's culinary memory, simply because it grows aggressively in unmanaged ecosystems. The scientific literature on kangkong's nutritional value is not subtle. Research published in PubMed Central through the National Institutes of Health in 2023 confirmed rich chemical and biochemical composition in Ipomoea aquatica, along with significant antioxidant activity. A 2021 PubMed Central study on lyophilized water spinach powder found antioxidant activity of 77.25% and high total phenolic content. Research from UCSI University in Malaysia documented that water spinach is used in traditional medicine, specifically to treat diabetes in pregnant women, as a sedative to promote natural sleep, and as a treatment for jaundice and liver conditions. These are not folk remedies passed along without evidence. These are documented, peer-reviewed observations of what people already knew from centuries of use. Now let me show you the number that changes everything about this conversation. According to cultivation research corroborated by multiple guides from Southeast Asia, kangkong grows at approximately 10 centimeters per day under warm, humid, well-watered conditions. That is not a typo. 10 centimeters every 24 hours. In 7 days, a single established cutting can triple its above-ground biomass. No other leafy vegetable available to home growers in the temperate world matches that rate under comparable conditions. For context, spinach takes between 40 and 50 days from seed to harvest. Kale takes between 55 and 75 days. Lettuce takes 30 to 45 days. Kangkong from a cutting placed in a glass of water on your kitchen worktop in a warm room will show visible new growth within 24 hours. Within a week, it has tripled. This is not a plant with a growing season. This is a plant with a growing hour. Now, I want to come back to the iron question because there is one more layer most people never hear. The World Health Organization estimates that iron deficiency anemia affects approximately 1.62 billion people globally. It is the single most prevalent nutritional deficiency on the planet. The groups most affected are children under 5, pregnant women, and women of reproductive age. In the Philippines, where kangkong is called the vegetable of the poor, it remains one of the most accessible sources of dietary iron available at the lowest economic tier of the population. Here is the extraordinary detail. The people who grow it are not wealthy. They are not supplemented. They are not relying on pharmaceutical iron tablets. They have access to a weed that grows faster than almost any other edible plant, provides iron in concentrations competitive with meat, packages its own absorption enhancer, and regrows within a day of harvesting. That plant has been removed from the American food conversation almost entirely. I'm not suggesting a conspiracy. I am simply pointing to a fact pattern. A nutritionally extraordinary, medically documented, rapidly growing food source entered the United States in the 1950s as a potential crop. It was then classified as a noxious weed. Federal law made it illegal to move it across state lines without a permit. State-level restrictions multiplied, and today the average American does not know it exists, while 2 billion people eat it for dinner tonight. Now I want to be precise about something before we talk about how to grow this at home. The legal situation with water spinach in the United States is real. If you live in Florida, Virginia, Alabama, North Carolina, or South Carolina, check your specific state and county regulations before growing this outdoors or near natural water sources. The ecological concern about its spread into open waterways is legitimate. Every restriction stems from genuine documented harm to freshwater ecosystems when this plant is grown in uncontrolled outdoor water environments. What is not restricted in most jurisdictions is growing it in a sealed container indoors, in soil, a pot, a container of moist soil, a sunny windowsill, or a bathroom shelf near the shower where humidity is naturally high. These are the conditions Kangkong has thrived in across millions of Southeast Asian flat balconies, rooftops, and courtyard containers for generations. Here is the full setup. Use a container at least 20 centimeters deep and 30 centimeters wide. Fill it with moist, well-draining soil mixed with a little organic compost if you have it. Plant cuttings approximately 5 to 10 centimeters into the soil with at least 2 nodes below the surface. Place the container where it receives at least 4 to 6 hours of direct light daily. Keep the soil consistently moist, not waterlogged. Temperature matters. Kangkong performs best between 25 and 35 degrees C. In a warm indoor environment or on a bright balcony in a tropical or subtropical climate, growth begins within 24 hours of planting a healthy cutting. Do not use open buckets of standing water near drainage systems or natural waterways. That is where the ecological risk is real. A sealed pot or container eliminates that risk entirely while giving you a plant that will be ready to harvest within 3 weeks of your first cutting. When you harvest, cut the top 15 to 20 centimeters of the shoot. Do not pull the plant. Leave the root and stem intact. Within 1 day, sometimes less, new lateral shoots begin emerging from the cut points. 1 plant becomes 2 harvest points. 2 become 4. The biomass triples in 7 days. Not because this plant is exotic or difficult, it triples because this is simply what it does when you give it warmth, moisture, and light. Cook it the way 1 billion Southeast Asian home cooks have cooked it for centuries. High heat, a little oil, garlic, 30 seconds in a wok or pan. The stems stay slightly crisp. The leaves wilt but hold their color. Add a squeeze of lemon or lime at the end. That is not just flavoring. That is a studied nutritional decision. The vitamin C in citrus converts the non-heme iron into its ferrous form and significantly increases what your body actually absorbs. If you want maximum iron benefit, pair it with any food high in vitamin C like red pepper, tomato, or kiwi. The research on this mechanism was documented in a foundational study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition and has been replicated across multiple subsequent nutritional studies. Here is the final thought. The world is not short of plants that can feed us better than the crops we have chosen to industrialize. What we are short of is the willingness to look carefully at what was already growing before someone decided it was inconvenient. Water spinach was called the poor man's vegetable in the Philippines, not as an insult. It was a description of abundance. The poorest families had access to something that grows back every time you cut it, delivers iron competitive with meat, contains antioxidants studied at the NIH level, and requires nothing more than a container of moist soil and a warm window to produce. 2 billion people already know this. The science already knows this. The only variable is whether you decide to find out for yourself. If this story changed the way you look at the weeds in your garden, please subscribe to our channel. We are uncovering the history and the nutrition that they have tried to bury. Let's plant the seeds for a healthier future. Our next treasure will be revealed soon. Like this video and leave a comment below with one plant you want me to go this deep on next.